Sacred Harmony, where healing is raw, real, and radically liberating. Today's guest is Emma Lyons, trauma informed healer and founder of the Trauma Matrix. Emma's story is one of deep unraveling, walking away from a polished, prestigious life to confront the invisible enemy within, the shame voice, the inner narcissist, the part of us that gaslights, controls, and silences our truth. If you've ever felt like you're playing small in a life that was meant to be expansive, this episode is a truth bomb wrapped in compassion. Welcome to the show, Emma. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Anu. Thanks for inviting me.
Mhm. So, Emma, you talk about the inner narcissist. How do you define that in contrast to the narcissist we usually think about?
Okay, that's a really great question because nobody is talking about it like this. The inner narcissist, as I define it, is what other people call the inner critic. Excuse me. But the inner critic is like that voice inside your head that says, you're not good enough, you shouldn't do that, you can't do that thing, you look stupid, what will everyone think? So it's kind of like the common people out there, the common wisdom would be, oh, this part of you is trying to keep you safe. But what I've realized through my own life and realizing, covert narcissism in my family and seeing how that is very prevalent, I've recognized that that same voice, is actually not so much trying to protect you it's not trying to protect you or keep you safe at all. It's rather trying to protect itself. And it has no real concern for your well being or for trying to keep you safe. And also, that the more you feed it, just like with the narcissist out there in the world, the more you feed it, the more you dance to its tune, the more you appease it, the more it expands and grow. And it can even metastasize into something more malignant. I have experienced that. That's when the voice says, you might as well not be here, you're useless. And without that voice, people would not, do the final act to get themselves off. It's that voice in their head that that tells them that they're useless and that there's no point in being here. So I've experienced that voice, and I've also experienced people, doing that, narcissists out there in the world, talking to me like that. And the common wisdom for the outer narcissist is very different for what people say about the inner critic. And when I started researching this, I just noticed that, and also noticed that I've been trying to empathize and sit down for lunch and understand my inner critic, my inner narcissist, all my life, and it hasn't really got me anywhere. I've actually fed it, and I had lifelong depression from childhood. So I really had a very strong inner critic, inner narcissist that really kept me small, kept me from doing what I really want to do in life, and really sabotaged me at every turn.
Mm-hmm. Right. And why do so many high achieving, empathetic women fall under its spell?
Well, because it's so normalized in our culture, Anya. It's everywhere. And people, especially women, especially sensitive women, we try to empathize it. We try to feel into it. We try to understand it and talk nicely to it. But as we know, that doesn't work for the narcissist outside. That keeps us in the loop of abuse. And also what I realized in my research is that women are very much affected by it because of the whole legacy of, the way women have been treated historically. So we carry all that historical shame with us. And that's why the shame is so strong, the internalized shame and the continued shaming of women, the continued shaming of women's bodies for being too fat, too sexy enough, not young enough, all of these things. So there's shame coming to women from every angle. And yeah, it's really everywhere. I think that's why a lot of women suffer with this really heavy inner critic, inner narcissist voice.
Mm-hmm. But that flips the script. We are not just victims of narcissism, we internalize it. And that's wild and freeing.
Well, yeah, the shame voice, it pretends that it's you, and the common wisdom says that it is you. It says that that voice is trying to keep you safe. It says, don't do that thing. Don't get up and sing. What will everyone say? It shames you for speaking. After you've said something, it's like, oh, you were such a fool. You dropped that thing. What's everyone going to think now? It's that, it's not just an inner critic, it's actually mocking you in the same way that a narcissist would and telling you. I mean, I think a lot of women suffer with that. When they drop something or do something, they're like the inner voice, they might even say it out loud. I'm so stupid, I'm such an idiot. So we are shaming ourselves when we say those things. And that's different from guilt. That's the very a very big distinction, because guilt says I've done something wrong, and shame says I am bad. I'm actually inherently bad. And my claim, and what I'm really standing by, and what you also see in some spiritual texts like A Course in Miracles, it's the same. You don't need to befriend that voice, because it's not you. That is the voice of the toxic ego. I call it the inner narcissist, and we don't want to make friends with it. We don't want to, because every time you listen to that voice, it gets stronger and stronger. So it can show up like that. It can also show up, a heavier thing, telling you that you're useless, or there's no point in you being here. You'll never achieve anything. You're a failure. It can also achieve, like, especially with women, oh, that voice when you look in the mirror and says, you're ugly, you're fat. So many different ways, but it's always shaming. And that's the real distinction between, your higher self. And a lot of people talk about this and make it really complicated. But actually, it's really simple. If the voice is shaming you, that's the voice of your inner narcissist. That's not the voice of your higher self. Your higher self will never shame you, but your inner narcissist will. That's how it talks to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what is the signs that it's running the show, especially under the radar?
Well, I mean, are you very insecure? Do you have a lot of self-doubt? Maybe you have real issues around trusting yourself. That's a real common one. You can't trust yourself. You're asking everyone else for reassurance. And you can't do anything without, getting advice from other people and getting feedback. And when you get feedback from people, you really internalize it and take it on board. You can't struggle making a decision. That's a huge sign. And yeah, this whole thing of self-sabotage, feeling stuck constantly, these are all classic signs that you're trapped in this inner this inner stuckness, which actually comes from you, or it comes from that inner toxic voice. But it's not you. You can free yourself of it, and then you don't have to be stuck anymore. But there's this common, it's not, the voice is not you. The voice is like a parasite. It's like taking your energy, just like narcissists out there in the world. That's exactly how they operate.
That invisible sabotage so many of us think is just who we are, but it's conditioning wearing a mask.
Yeah, absolutely. It is conditioning. It's not it's not the truth, and it's not you. It's your conditioning. It's what you've been told by your parents. For parenting, that the parents are taught to shame their kids. That's a very common, that's probably the most common kind of parenting strategy that we've all learned from our parents. If a child does something bad, you say, bad girl, bad boy. That's shaming them. We tell them that they're bad because they've done something bad. And that is always harmful. But it's just, shame is normalized in our culture, but it's always a way to keep people in line, to keep people obedient to the party line, what's acceptable and what's not.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you left law and international human rights to dive into healing. What made you walk away from a life that looked so right on paper?
Well, it's just I realized that it wasn't me and it didn't feel right anymore. So I couldn't bring myself to continue and kind of live a lie anymore. So I had a quarter life crisis, and that was it. It's like this life purpose. Why am I here? What's the point? So rather than having it when you're in your 40s or 50s, I had an earlier one. And that's why I couldn't continue to lie to myself and basically abandon myself doing something that was not just not a fit, but was something that was not that I had to distort myself in order to fit in.
That's amazing. And did the shame voice show up even stronger during that transition?
Oh yeah, yeah. The shame voice was very loud. It said, you have no purpose. What's the point? You don't have anything. You're a failure. So yeah, that was one of the points where the shame voice became very malignant.
Mm-hmm, makes sense. But that's so relatable. Choosing freedom can feel like a failure at first, especially when the old system is still inside you.
Oh yeah, it definitely can because we're programmed to, stay in order to stay in the lane. So once you step out of the lane that has been assigned to you, people are going to criticize you. That shaming voice is gonna criticize you and tell you that you shouldn't do that, that you've no right. Who do you think you are? You can't do that. But well, I'm moving from place where we're just polishing the cage to actually escaping from it, to getting out of the cage of shame that's so normalized, especially in Western culture. Shame is so normalized and internalized, and we compare ourselves to other people so much, and it's kind of encouraged with promotions and advertisement. Shaming is the way we are forced to behave, basically. And it's a tool that's commonly used to keep people in line. And that shaming voice, it takes that on. And we all do that to ourselves to varying degrees. And in a world that's basically running on shame, shame is kind of the fuel that keeps the world, especially the Western world, going. It's really hard to fully step outside that and see that something else is possible. But it is, because when you look at indigenous cultures before, especially the Western colonization of the world, if you look at indigenous cultures and what they were like before these empires, they didn't have shame, or indigenous cultures don't have shame in the same way that we have in the West. It's about if people do something bad, or they're brought together, there's kind of community sense of justice. It's not about making someone bad, but it's about, making them understand why that was not a beneficial thing to do. And kind of this whole community thing, rather than shaming and isolating people and sending people to exile. It's a very short term solution, and it seems to work. And that's why it's so common. It's such a common tool, but in the long term, it's very, very toxic for us as humans, and it gets passed down from generation to the next. And then you have like dysfunctional families that are basically carrying a ton of shame that gets passed down through the generations.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And how does nervous system dysregulation feed the inner narcissist? And how can we begin to break that loop?
Well, when you get dysregulated, your nervous system is kind of on high alert. So your voice is trying to the inner narcissist is like try to keep you safe, try to keep you in your line, so that it won't be anxious. So it tries to control you. And yeah, so anything that kind of will make it anxious, or make it kind of go on high alert, or make your nervous system go on high alert, that also can set off the inner narcissist or the inner critic and really start, it can get very loud and obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And are there practical ways to start reclaiming regulation and visibility?
Yeah, you have got to, first of all, recognize that it's not you, that this voice in your head, it's not you, which is very counter to what's being taught at the moment out there, the common wisdom. It says that that's part of you, that it's like your inner child, the wounded part that you should look after, that you should empathize with. But I reject all of that. And I have tried that. And I have, but it doesn't work. It doesn't, it just gets stronger. It's the voice of the ego, the selfish voice. And so step one is recognize that it's not you. And step two is just really refuse to dance to its tune. That means no more fawning, no more freezing when it comes along and says, you can't do that. Basically, you've got to just live your life the way that you want to, regardless of what the voice says. If it says you can't get up there and sing, or you can't do that job, or you can't study yoga, or you can't be a masseuse, or whatever it is for you, if that's what you want to do, you've got to actually do it, because it's a lifetimes of conditioning. And to break it, it takes a little bit of time. You've got to just say no to it and really step out of it.
Mm-hmm. And that link between the nervous system and self erasure is profound. Healing isn't just mental, it's biological.
Oh yes, it's healing. Healing is biological. I mean, this is where the whole mindset work industry kind of falls down. And I was really into that for a while. I really worked on my mindset. But the mind is only a small part of what's going on. Your whole body is your nervous system. And if your nervous system is wired to be on high alert, it doesn't matter if you've kind of it's it's a loop. So you've got to work on your nervous system and releasing that as well. You can believe that everything is going to be fine in your head, but your body might not be so convinced. And that's why your body will kind of automatically go into freeze responses, for example, if you haven't dealt with the triggers in the body.
Mm-hmm. And what does true visibility look like once the shame voice has been exorcised?
Well, true visibility means that you're just you. You're not performing for anyone. You're not trying to look good to keep anyone else happy. You're not trying to do what your mother said, what your father said. You're just being yourself. You're being totally authentic, and you're not performing or dancing for anyone. You're doing it for yourself. Living life on your own terms, basically. And also like thriving. That's the ultimate, um, that's what the inner narcissist doesn't want. It doesn't want you to thrive. So the ultimate way of becoming free is to thrive doing exactly what you want to do and thriving in exactly the way that you want to thrive. So thriving might mean having a family, or it might mean, going to live an alternative lifestyle. It's not necessarily about money, but it means living 100% on your terms with no interference from shame and from the voice of your parents, or the voice of that inner narcissist. So basically, you're living shamelessly. You're living free of shame.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And how can someone start showing up without the old armor?
Well, yeah, it's a practice. You've got to recognize that you have this problem first of all, and recognize that it's not you, like I said before. And then you've got to practice. You've got to regulate your nervous system, which is like what I do with my clients, as well as kind of changing belief systems and releasing the hold of this thing over you, the narcissistic voice within. Releasing. It's kind of like, I mean, spiritually speaking, it's like you have all these contracts and oaths and commitments and accords and ties to be loyal to it. So you've got to break all of these contracts and then just live on your own terms. So that figure out what you want. You've got to first of all take time away from it. Like take a holiday from your inner narcissist and figure out what you really want. What is it that you really want? And then go and do that. Make it happen. Go and connect with people and bring that vision to life, regardless of what that voice is still saying, because that is the voice of limitation. It's not the voice of truth.
That's the kind of liberation we don't talk enough about. Freedom from the inside out.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom from real freedom is freedom from shame. And that's not something that most people in regular spheres are talking about because it seems impossible because our society is so drenched in shame. Shame is everywhere. Shame is normal. Shame is in religion. And so it's kind of the operating system of our world and our culture. And it's the way we are kept being good human. And even, psychologists and therapists, they might we all kind of have taken that on, that a little bit of shame is not shame is you have toxic shame and then you have shame that's good. And I say no. No, no, all shame is toxic and it's not natural. It's just it's just been normalized in our dysfunctional world, but that doesn't mean that it's normal or natural or that it should exist or that it helps us in any way. Shame is always toxic. Believing that there's something wrong with you is always, always toxic. And when people talk about it being positive, they're actually conflating it with the idea of guilt. And the guilt is basically saying, oh, I've done something wrong. And that's very, very different from the feeling that I am bad. They're two very distinct things.
100%. So Emma Lyons reminds us that the enemy within us isn't our truth. It's a lie we have been rehearsing for too long. The voice that shames, silences, and controls isn't you. It's an inherited mask, ready to be burned. If something cracked open in you today, follow that thread. You are not broken. You are remembering who you were before the world told you to shrink. So until next time, let truth be your compass and healing your revolution.